What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe here. 3 rounds of the NFL 2022 NFL Draft officially in the books. Here to break down the fantasy implications, talk rookie dynasty drafts, all that stuff. Be coming out with my rookie dynasty rankings probably tomorrow, so make sure you hit that subscribe button tomorrow or Monday. Hit that subscribe button and stick around for that. Hit that like button on this video. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. I respond to all comments. Just going to be breaking down the draft, my fantasy reaction to all of it. So let's get right into it. In this first round, start off with 5 defenders. We got Ickey Ekwonu going number 6 to Carolina. I think this is a notable offensive line draft pick because of how good he is as a run blocker. I think this is an instant win for CMC. Ickey Ekwonu probably plays tackle for them, I would imagine. Worst case scenario, he'll play guard, but I do think he'll play tackle since he went to Carolina. Evan Neal, a solid addition for the Giants, especially because he can play left or right tackle. That'll be a good thing for Saquon, their entire offense, I think. As we get to some of these skill guys, Drake London at 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. I think he'll get a ton of targets in that offense. Obviously, they're devoid of receivers. Him and Kyle Pitts are the two big dogs there. Cross goes to Cross out of Mississippi State, went to Seattle. I do think it's good for Drew Lock and the passing offense, the passing game, protect the quarterback. But I do think he'll struggle a little bit in year one to run block. Didn't do a ton of that at Mississippi State, and I imagine that's what they want him to do in Seattle. So I could see a little bit of take some time for him to hit as a run blocker, and I think he'll be asked to do a lot in Seattle. Garrett Wilson at 10. I think that's a good landing spot in New York. Thought they would have gone for a little bit more size, but I think he is a stud. I think him and Elijah Moore will get a bunch of targets. Does have some of the higher competition for targets of these rookie landing spots, just because he has Elijah Moore and Corey Davis currently there. But a year from now, I think it'll be probably him and Elijah Moore probably. Olave at 11 went to Ohio State. I went to Ohio State, obviously. Went to the Saints. He's my most NFL ready, probably wide receiver. I just think his route running is going to translate. I think he could have 1,000 yards as a rookie. Obviously, going to depend on Jameis Winston, a lot of that. Number 12, Jameson Williams went. He was my number 1 rated wide receiver. And with all these landing spots, honestly, a lot of unideal landing spots for fantasy football in this draft so far. But I would take Jameson Williams with the number 1 rookie dynasty pick just because I believe in the talent that much. I do think he will, be able to get a lot of targets in an offense. And even if, Jared Goff, I think you could do a lot worse than Jared Goff in that the game scripts that he's most likely going to be in for the first several years of his career being in Detroit. So really like Jameson Williams still, even though I don't think it's a less than ideal landing spot. Moving on, Jahan Dotson went to the Washington Commanders. I think it's good for Carson Wentz. I think he is a good receiver. Less than ideal landing spot for him, obviously, though, playing with Carson Wentz. Treylon Burks went to Tennessee, another guy who I think has a ton of opportunity to just get a lot of targets. Obviously, with A.J. Brown going to the Eagles, that was a major move. Honestly, I think it's a downgrade for A.J. Brown in fantasy, just because I don't think he's going to get, the same target volume. I think there's more competition for targets there in Philly than there was in Tennessee, quite frankly, with DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, some other options. Really in Tennessee, it was Robert Woods coming off a torn ACL. And Jalen Hurts, I think, is a downgraded quarterback, but he's a great player. I still think he'll be good for fantasy. I think this moves him out of the second round range to me, though, for A.J. Brown. Seattle, they take another tackle later in the draft. So they take 2 tackles and Kenneth Walker in round 2. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And I think Kenneth Walker also is going to be one of the guys I think could have a major impact in year 1. With Seattle, I think they're just going to run the ball a ton, and I think, we've seen them invest in the offensive line in ways they haven't before. Treylon Burks, by the way, I think he's going to get a bunch of targets this year. The Chargers and the Saints both had nice additions to the offensive line that will help the run games, help the quarterbacks. Zion Johnson, he could play tackle, he could play guard. Honestly, if I was the Chargers, I might have taken Penning, suck him in that right tackle spot. But if they might play Zion Johnson at tackle potentially. And they like him better, obviously. Kenny Pickett goes to the Steelers at 20. My thoughts on this, I think him and Mitch Trubisky are going to be pretty similar year 1, so it adds a little bit of stability in their option if Mitch is bad. I don't see it as a huge upgrade. They get George Pickens later in the draft. He has a bunch of receiving options. I do think it will be Kenny Pickett's job sooner rather than later. He's one of the more NFL-ready guys. He's going to be turning 24 very soon, so keep that in mind. The rest of these guys, I think Tyler Linderbaum going to Baltimore was a really nice pick for their run game. I think that's an upgrade for J.K. Dobbins. Tyler Smith, very raw, went to Tulsa, was drafted by Dallas. Very raw. I don't think a huge upgrade. I think he's going to struggle a little bit in year one with his technique and things like that. But long term, I think he has a lot of upside. But yeah, Tyler Linderbaum as well. Like I said, I think centers make a big difference in the run game. I think he's really good, a bit undersized, but a very, very good player, understands leverage. Obviously, the Patriots took a guard from Chattanooga. They like him a lot, so I imagine they saw something in him. Moving on to round 2, we'll go over round 2 and 3 a little bit more quickly. I already touched on Kenneth Walker. Going to Seattle, the other top running back, Breece Hall, went to the Jets here in the very top of the round. It doesn't have an ideal landing spot for him with Michael Carter there, but I do think it's going to be Bryce Hall. I think it's going to be Breece Hall's job in New York. I think 36 is too high of a pick to spend, too much draft capital to spend, in my opinion, on a back to just let him be, second fiddle. I think he's going to be the starter. I think he's going to, I think he's just considerably better than Michael Carter, and that's going to show very soon. I think Michael Carter is a good running back. I think Breece Hall has a chance to be really good. Sub 4.4 speed, that production profile he has coming out of Iowa State. He's caught 82 passes in college. I still view him as a top, 5 rookie pick, dynasty pick for sure. Christian Watson went from North Dakota State, went to the Packers. Athletic freak, destroyed the combine. I think he's number 7 on my wide receiver rankings. But as I said, when we're going to come out with my dynasty rankings, which will come out Sunday, these guys are going to move around a ton based on their landing spot. Christian Watson's a great example of that. Going to Green Bay, you match his production profile in a place where he has a chance to get over 100 targets, I think, as a rookie potentially. But if you're the Green Bay Packers, I think you have to have limited expectations for him. He had 800 yards last year, only 43 catches. But at North Dakota State, that's going to be a huge jump in competition level from those DBs to the NFL. He had a strong Senior Bowl, but I would say 700 yards would be a good rookie year for him. I think long-term, though, he has, a super high ceiling. But for Dynasty, does he get 1 year of that ceiling before Aaron Rodgers retires? That stuff's hard to know right now. Moving on, I talked about Kenneth Walker. I think he'll have an opportunity to produce for fantasy. Wendell Robinson, I thought was an odd pick by the Giants. John Mitchell, I think, will have an opportunity to succeed, especially if Brandon Cooks gets moved or, as a 2 to Brandon Cooks. Regardless, I think, a lot of opportunities there. Taekwon Thornton for the Patriots, I think they got him to help stretch the field a little bit. That was a bit of a reach, to be honest with you. Cam Jurgens, Philadelphia Eagles center. They obviously have Jason Kelce for now. I don't know if he'll play guard or if he's just going to, be the next up. Both these receivers, George Pickens, I think, is an absolute stud. He went to Pittsburgh. I think he'll be really good. A lot of competition there, though, right now for targets. The opposite of that is Alec Pierce. He's going to go in right away, I think, and be able to play, be able to contribute. Another guy who should be able to contribute, Sky Moore out of Western Michigan, goes to Kansas City, a place that's, going to have opportunities for wide receivers to play. He's a great route runner, produced a lot at Western Michigan. I think he's going to be a good player, ran a 4.4. So, nice pick by Kansas City there, a guy who probably will be able to contribute year 1, I think, too. Trey McBride caught a ton of passes, I think, over 2,000 yards in his career at Colorado State, produced a lot. You like to see that for Arizona. They also have Ertz there as well, so they're going to run probably those 2 tight end sets quite a bit. See some offensive linemen get taken. That stuff is not small. But, a lot of that stuff will be added up throughout the draft, and we'll be able to see at the end, who really made some major additions on our offensive line as we get into this 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round ranges as well. But, yeah, some people have already made Ed Ingram. A lot of people think he'll be a very good player right away at guard. So, yeah, a lot of these teams making great additions to those teams. James Cook goes to Buffalo. I think he's a guy who will be given, 8 to 12 touches a game, but he's an electric playmaker. Smaller than his brother, so I don't think he'll ever be that workhorse role, but I do think he can, make some major contributions and be a back-end RB2 very soon. He's electric with the ball in his hands. Honestly, reminds me a little bit of like an Aaron Jones-esque type player or something like that. Is even smaller than him, but I don't think he'll get the carries, but has that type of juice and ability to contribute. So I think he'll definitely be utilized in Buffalo, especially that he's a second round pick. That draft capital makes a big difference. Bears took a receiver, Willis Jones from Tennessee. Tennessee Titans got an offensive tackle as well. We'll talk about those offensive line additions as we get deeper. The Colts added Pierce Rainman in round 3. You'll see him, I'm thinking, a little bit. I think Bernard Rainman could start for them at left tackle right away. I think PFF had him a top 15 player, so that's something to keep in mind. Really nice pick by them. And they got Jelani Woods, who a lot of people think could be the best tight end athletically in this class and could turn into the best tight end in the NFL. So that's something to keep in mind. Malik Willis goes to the Titans as well. I think he'll, wait a year or two at least, and then, potentially be the guy after Tannehill is done. Tannehill is a little bit older, 34. So, I think I don't think it was a bad pick by them. Quarterback's a high premium position, so spending picks on the 3rd round isn't the dumbest thing by any means to me. Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama. I think he could have a solid rookie year in Dallas with Michael Gallup coming off that ACL injury and Amari Cooper getting traded. Rachaad White, running back from Arizona State, loved his film. If you check out my running back rankings pre-draft, he's a guy I said if he goes somewhere, I think Fournette will be the guy this year, but this was, definitely a loss for Leonard Fournette in fantasy. The fact that he went there, a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield, is a great runner. Will definitely, I think, take a lot of the work and split it up at least. Maybe not in year 1, but in year 2, I think he'll definitely get a lot of work. Matt Corral, quarterback, goes from Mississippi, goes to Carolina. I think he will end up being the starter this year for them over Sam Darnold. So I really like Matt Corral out of this draft class. I thought that was a great value to get him at, too. Tyron Davis Prince, running back out of LSU, went to San Francisco. Very crowded backfield there, obviously. Who knows what's going to happen. Brian Robinson, running back from Alabama, absolute hammer of a back, went to the Commanders. This is interesting because I do think it's a loss for Gibson. He could potentially take some goal line work, take some of that 1st and 2nd down work. And we already saw J.D. McKissick return and then be hesitant to give all that 3rd down work to Antonio Gibson. If he's not getting that and then he's splitting some 1st and 2nd down work, it's very concerning, honestly. David Bell, a lot of people liked his film, didn't test well at the combine, but goes to Cleveland, an area with Deshaun Watson now, and he could be the number 2 receiver. I think probably number 3. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones a lot, but, obviously they needed more guys, and they got him. Danny Gray went to San Francisco at the end. Kyle Shanahan does a great job of scouting wide receivers, so I'm sure he's a good player. I mean, Jeremy Ruckert, go to the New York Jets right there. Ruckert's got some great hands, made some big-time one-handed catches. But this is a kind of a weak tight end class. But, who knows what – he looked very athletic and very capable catching passes at Ohio State. That is going to conclude this video. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button to stick around for my Dynasty Rookie Rankings. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Fantasy Joe. I'll see you guys next time.